What gives an interior its true character? The objects within it, or the stories, skills, and hands that shape them? As design evolves, how can craft move beyond ornamentation to become a meaningful part of contemporary spaces? In this episode of Friday Frames, Ankur Choksi, principal of Studio Lotus, talks about perspectives on crafting interiors, exploring how tradition, innovation, and collaboration can come together to create spaces that are both timeless and deeply rooted in our culture.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Triple ID, for having me here, having us here. Yeah, I'm just going to share some thoughts, our learnings from the past journey, and how we've worked with craft and makers. And as designers, we found a way for ourselves, and that's what my lens is going to be. I'm going to share my screen and show you images of some of our projects. Many projects, we've realized that actually as a designer, one of the biggest and the most important roles that we have to play is as a integrator or as a facilitator. So we're constantly trying to enhance our understanding of the craft itself, whatever it may be, and understanding the maker, both from his skill limitation point of view and the last conversation about the human aspect of where they are operating from, what are the socio-economic kind of conditions, and trying to find a way to build the solution in a way that helps us bridge this. And that's what we've kind of learned. So of course, everybody's spoken about what craft means to people. And for us, there's this huge sense of awe and respect for all the collective body of knowledge that a craftsman creates and a community creates as persons working together, and how we can harness that to actually bring about solutions which are powerful and which create an impact and which are relevant today. uh, so yeah, I mean, we see it as a very powerful medium to do contextual responses in our design. That's something that we really believe in. So working with local skills and materials, it also allows us to really look at new ways and push things around and break norms, innovate. And we also really engage with this idea of interconnectedness, where every project we look at what is the impact to all the stakeholders involved. And in that sense, it ties in with this big idea that drives our process. So our learnings have been, like I was saying, really getting deep into understanding what the craft is all about. How is the craft practiced in terms of scale, technique? What does it mean in terms of costs? Because I think what Ayush said, how do you make it happen? And one of the key things is to really understand every aspect of it, to picture it and visualize, what that intervention is going to do in the large scenario of the project. And how do you make every piece kind of come together? It's like a jigsaw puzzle that needs to come together for it to really come alive. And then working with the artisans and crafts people, we also recognize that there is a lot to it is a lot to do with engaging them and making it a participative process. So moving away from delegating and creating a very clear direction and giving them something to do, versus actually working together, finding a solution. And that's the way to really harness the craft and get the best out of them, of an artisan or anybody who's a maker. And also as a process, we've realized that when working with craft, it needs to be really iterative. We have to go step by step, monitor, improvise, and set up a set of ground rules or a framework, which actually creates more an approach rather than a direct, like a decided outcome. So you're providing like a directional framework and then working towards it. And then really thinking about the craft and how to, and I'm talking about all these ideas because these are the kind of examples I've picked up from our projects, and I'm going to like kind of try and illustrate this and how we've done this. Basically, using this idea of how do you use a craft to make a solution come alive as a designer. And that's something that we start with as a process, rather than trying to infuse craft as a side layer. We start with, is the solution going to become better if you work with a particular craft or a particular skill? And then the larger idea of, today craft is, whatever said and done, the people who are practicing craft are lacking patronage. So the earlier institutions have kind of got diluted, and there is no real structure which provides patronage. So is there a way, the way we work, the way we kind of create opportunities, allows for this patronage to rise up again? And also we've been, like Jayaji, we've been actually working with a lot of people who have been doing meaningful work with artisans. And as designers, I think that space also needs to be looked at, where it needs a lot of intense hand holding when you work with craftsmen, and giving them time and giving them that space is something that needs to be done very, very intensively. So working with people who are specialists, and there are a lot of people who are also rising in this area. There's Crafts Canvas, who we've been also working with, and there is Shivanand Bhol we worked with on the Krishi Bhavan project. So that's our team. We are a multidisciplinary team, and we have furniture designers, architects, interior designers, visual designers, all working together. And I think we generally enjoy collaboration as a process, and we work with a lot of artisans and creators and makers. So Ankur Mitra, a lot of you might know, he works with origami. He's been doing some of the most wonderful works in origami, and we work a lot with him. This is a picture from one of the workshops he ran at the studio. And very quickly, I'm going to pick on different examples of what we've tried to do with. And the first example is, I'm picking on a very basic craft that's found on in our urban environments. This is an expression we explored for 2 brand stores for Rajesh Pratap Singh and Gaurav Gupta, where we worked with welders from the street. And actually the entire store is kind of created as a whale with some 12,000 scissors, which have been welded together in a particular way. And it's all hand built at site at Emporio within a very tight time frame, which allows for a distinct personality for the store, and it becomes like a framing device for the garments. For Gaurav Gupta, we took on his drawings and elements from the vocabulary that he works with as a fashion designer. And again, we worked with blacksmiths and local metal workers from around in Delhi, and kind of created a vocabulary of elements that gives the store a very distinct identity. And a lot of it was a collaboration between Gaurav Gupta, our teams, and the makers. So, his fabric explorations were transferred into cast elements and then converted into objects for the space. Then we've done a series of, we've been exploring this medium also in very high-end premium hospitality experiences. So I'm going to pick up 3-4 projects from different genres. We did this wonderful, we got this opportunity to do this wonderful project at the foothills of Mehrangarh Fort, and where we've explored extensively working with craftsmen. And one of the key things was that a lot of the patterns that you see here are all generated by the craftsmen themselves. So the entire building was crafted in stone. We reduced the amount of civil work dramatically in this building by using 50 millimeter thick stone for even walls and partitions. And there was an extensive amount of hand poured kind of processes which were processes which were followed. So even terrazzo floors were revived for the property, which are all hand poured. And then basically the entire skin of the building is created using this jali motif, which is again a traditional element found in the Rajasthani architecture, but it was kind of influenced by new ways of looking at it. And we were also looking at a simpler way and a faster way of for the craftsman to create something for the building. So these are large stone panels which slide open to reveal the balconies and open up the balconies towards the fort views. And that's the expression of the building. A very different context. This is a project we did in Dubai. We very extensively actually collaborated with Ayush on it. We did a lot of Indian quirky elements. The idea was, the name was Masti, so we were taking a fun take on the India story. And that's the building from outside. And because it was in Dubai, we took the liberty of really going all out and making it very vibrant. So that's the bar at the upper level where we work with stained glass and mild steel construct to create a sculptural elephant form with a backlit surface. On the left, you see a table which has got a mother of pearl kind of embellishment on it. Very extensively, we collaborated through the project. All the textile was specially developed, working with a textile designer in Delhi. Uh, Even the tabletops are all kind of inlaid with different details. We've taken Indian games and kind of transferred them as inlay patterns. All the furniture has been produced in India using local wood, and we work with weaving techniques to bring in color and vibrancy again back to the space. Another project in Jaipur where we were invited to transform this cafeteria, uh, which was not really kind of connecting to the city as a F&B destination. So the idea was to really transform the space and make it alive in today's time using contextual kind of local flavor and respecting the fact that it was sitting in a very old historical premise. So we kind of re-articulated the central court, brought in this dramatic pavilion, which is again crafted like a little jewel box, but it's all made in the marble from around and infused with lighting devices, which are very contemporary in terms of technology. And all the inserts were kind of different types of crafts which were brought in and then juxtaposed against the old canvas of the building to create a new metaphor for the F&B experience. So a lot of inlay work, very selective use of thickery and jalis in the space. And that's, so that there's a very distinct kind of juxtaposition done using traditional crafts from Jaipur, but interpreted in a new way. That's a recent project we've done for Taj. We were called for to look at the public spaces inside this building, which is a huge hotel they've built in Thiog. And the overall interiors are very Spartan. We've kept a very, very clean, contemporary kind of feel to it, but selectively we've brought in the Himachali craft at touch points and built in a narrative there. So using the stone and timber carving techniques that have been getting used in the temples in Himachal, they've been kind of expressed here. Another project we've just finished in Chhatrasagar, where we work with this artisan from Delhi who's a textile designer, a printmaker. So the tents are actually block printed and the whole story has been created inside the tents. And then the same story kind of got translated into this pavilion, which is actually the common area for the 14, 15 tent hotel resort that has been created here. And the same kind of expression was then picked up by the stone carvers and given a new life in their own way on the surfaces of the pavilion. So the idea was, again, to just allow them to take that inspiration and create something on their own. And then I'm just going to talk about, one of the projects here is the project that Jayaji shared, where we worked with layering of visual narratives onto surfaces. So Ruchiraji, the then chairman of Crafts Museum, invited us to relook at the museum store and also a cafeteria which was attached to it. So we kind of helped articulate the sense of arrival. So the whole stone wall is kind of designed in a way that it holds diyas during an event. And then the sheltering structure for the cafeteria outdoors was actually a very light, frugal metal structure. And that's been layered with craft again, all hand painted directly at site. More elaborate kind of expressions on the wall. So the entire architecture was cleaned up by us. And then to give it a story, it's been just kind of layered by Mustaq Khanji, who's a veteran at the Crafts Museum, who's been kind of working with all the master craftsmen. He chose the people who'd work on it. And then we kind of just worked with them to figure out what we could do with it. Examples from some corporate spaces. So that's a office space that we've done for the Everest group, where we had these massive extents of partitioning systems. They wanted a lot of cabins and a lot of privacy from their individual kind of divisions within the office. So we worked with craftsmen to create a story, a narrative, which told the story of the group, and that became the canvas to tell the story of how the group has evolved, what are their values, and very detailed, kind of intricate, hand painted layering has been done onto something called the cement board. So it's a particular kind of board that takes paint easily, and that's what we work with. So staining it, giving color to it. These are examples from the office that Asha and Ambrish have been working with Jayaji on. This is the office at Gurgaon. And then, yeah, this idea of patronage, I wanted to talk about it using this project, which we got invited for by Naveen Patnaik, where he wanted to create an iconic building where there was an opportunity for a new office building for the agricultural directorate. And one of the initial thoughts that we kind of stuck to was to try and create a public interface at the lower level of the building. And then taking it forward, we actually kind of pushed for an idea where this would become a canvas for multiple craftsmen to be invited and help them engage with craftsmen to create a narrative at the lower level. So the entire building was planned in a way where the office spaces were at the upper levels, and the lower level was activated for various activities which would engage the public and the farmers and connect the communities. So that's the elevation of the building, which at the lower level actually uses this local stone, which is very easy to work with, the laterite stone, which allowed for the craftsmen to directly come to site and engage with it, and add a fair amount of intricate details into it. So various narratives. So here we worked with Shivanand Bhol, who kind of became our anchor person with the craftsmen, and we kind of worked with many crafts to bring in different narratives and at different scales. So large surfaces were kind of mapped out and then translated at the architectural level. And various kinds of screens were thought of and kind of interspersed in the building itself, using again different techniques. Buster was also called. So, and one last project, I'm just trying to rush through this so that we have time for discussion, is a new, we've just started doing some mock-ups, and we won a competition about a year back, where we are working on the precinct of the Mehrangarh Fort. And what we are exploring is a new way of construction, where the building is going to be very light in terms of its footprint on site. So it's a metal framework with stone kind of a hybrid structure between metal and stone. So stone is kind of sitting between a metal framework. And the idea was to create something that can be kind of moved around or removed without leaving too much on the landmass in terms of its footprint. So the entire building is visualized as a floating deck on the rock, where all the services kind of flow below the deck. And the entire block comes together as a modular structure. But we also wanted to give it a very distinct identity. So right now we are exploring working with the craftsmen on how to layer the body of the building itself. So a series of jalis and surface textures are getting developed. So these are some of the images of the prototypes. And yeah, that's how probably that's been visualized. That will sit quietly against the magnificent fort. Yeah, thank you. I think that's what I wanted to share today.